nadir. N-A-D-I-R?
Yeah.
Like the opposite of zenith?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes we have a nadir. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just didn't hear.
So, no, it's... I know I'm not to understand. I know I'm not to understand. Irony, right? But other times we get along really well. I mean, I didn't have a lot of constant companions throughout my life.
You did or did not?
Did not, no. I mean, we moved around all the time. So I had him and I had my mom and...
What about Ian and Sarah?
Eventually I had Ian and Sarah too, yes.
Okay.
I didn't mention them at first because they're much younger than I am.
Because they're much younger than you?
Yes.
Okay. So, you're living at this place in Salvarita. You mentioned at some point John Jones left.
Yeah, at some point.
Explain that, please.
That his condition, I guess, had been worsening.
Hold on. What does that mean?
I didn't hear it.
He said his condition had been worsening? Is that right, Joe? Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
What do you mean by his condition?
I'm not really sure. As far as I know, when I had first met him, he smoked some weed, he drank, he smoked the regular stuff, right? But...
Hold on. Do you mean cigarettes or stuff? So
yes.
You're talking about tobacco?
I meant by the regular stuff, drinking, smoking, and weed.
Okay.
That periodic combination.
Okay.
So the okay, lost my track. See what you did. By the time that he left, he was apparently using heroin. As Mom said.
He was what?
Using heroin. As Mom had said anyway. I never saw anything about that. I do know that at one point he had actually taken me out into we were on this the Sarita farm was on a couple acres of property in the middle of the desert. So he took me out in the middle of the desert, middle of the property and some more, and told me that he had these weird ideas that I was having sort of incestuous relationship with my mom, and was...
Hold on, Joe. Let me make sure I understand this. John Jones said something to you about having an incestuous relationship with your mom, like you were having one?
Yeah, actually accusing me of having an incestuous relationship with my mom and threatening to basically rip me apart if this were true.
Let's just make this clear. Were you having any sort of physical or sexual relationship with your mother?
I did not, nor did I want to.
You did not?
I did not have any sort of physical, sexual, or whatsoever relationship with my mom, nor did I seek any.
Okay.
Nor do I believe did she ever want or seek any of her own.
From you?
Yeah.
Okay. So John Jones talked to you, he thought you were having some kind of incestuous relationship
and
with
I
your
have
mother?
no idea why he would have such a belief. I'd like to point out that it's not quite as evident now as it was before, because I've been sitting around for the past 7 years. But I used to be a very skinny, very lean person, and so even at 12 years old, I was maybe 120 pounds. This was a full-grown man, very muscular, very strong man. He's literally standing over me, like, telling me that he's going to rip me apart and describing how he can kick the crap out of me. It's like, I have no doubt that he could. And it's like, what are you talking about? Why are you so angry?
So, is this somehow related to the possibility that he was doing heroin?
I'm thinking maybe it was. Because, I mean, where else would he have gotten this idea?
Okay.
Shortly afterward, he would drive off in the mornings in his car without a hood on it. And, he just drove off this day and just didn't come back.
Okay.
He was not there for a serious month. In fact, he left us there in the middle of the desert on this little farm like Grosse Pond. And, Mom's like, pregnant as nobody's business. We have
Mom is like what?
Mom is pregnant as nobody's business.
Meaning very pregnant?
Meaning, she's big at this point. She's like 7-8 months along. So, we've got me, I'm 11. We've got Chris, who's, 8 at this point. We've got no income. We've got no reason to have these guys keep us around. And yet they still did for a little while long. And did I mention that Ian was not even a year old at this point? That's true. So
where did you go? How long did you stay there?
They let us stay there for at least until Sarah was born, I believe. Then after that, we moved to the trailer park where that particular siege was. And
okay, so the trailer park, was that still in Salvarita or was that nearby?
that was in Tucson.
That was in Tucson.
Yeah.
And about how long did you stay in that trailer park?
I think we stayed there about 6 months. A couple months after, we stayed there maybe a year, maybe 6 months.
Did you go to school while you were down there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
In
actually,
Tucson?
we stayed there till the end of the school year. That's right. Actually, we stayed there till the end of the school year, and that was, frankly, one of the best schools I've ever been to.
That was one of the best schools you were at?
Yeah, I was actually really kind of let down to leave there. Even though this was...
It was really what?
I was actually really kind of let down to leave there because it was such a good school.
So,
You know?
why did you leave and where did you go?
I have to imagine she probably didn't pay the rent again.
I didn't hear you.
I have to imagine she probably failed to pay the rent again.
But regardless, you left.
We left.
And where did you
That's
go?
fine. We went back to Homestead Garden Apartments again.
Went back to Homestead Garden Apartments.
Yes.
This is back in Santa Clara.
Yes.
And how did you get there?
Bus.
Okay. And when you got back to Homestead Garden, now who of your friends or relatives are living in the area? You mentioned Kathy Cote was the apartment manager before. Was she still the apartment manager?
This might be about around the time she moved in, actually.
At this point,
I believe that this is around the point where Kathy Cote moved in.
Moved into where?
The apartment complex.
But I thought that she had something to do with meeting John Jones.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, probably right then. Sorry, I just...
Hey, let me ask you something, because this comes up later. You just said, oh, that's the point where she moved in. But really, it had to have been earlier because of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Were you lying to me just now?
No, I'm
Were
just...
you trying to mislead this jury?
Absolutely not. No, I'm just a little bit scattered.
A little bit scattered.
Yeah, I'm old.
You're, well,
No,
that's
I'm
not true,
just...
But anyway.
I just scattered sometimes about
Okay.
some things. I just...
Okay, so you got back to Homestead Garden Apartments. Now, how about Aunt Mary? Is she in the vicinity at this point?
Yes, my Aunt Mary and her 2 daughters are in this vicinity at this point.
and who?
Her 2 daughters, Mary, Patricia, and Regina.
Now, is Mary Patricia, is that one person or two?
Yes, that's one person, sorry.
So is she known as Mary Pat?
Yes, that would be the same one.
Okay. And so now you're back in Homestead Garden Apartments.
Hmm?
Ian is 1 year old or so,
1-ish, yeah.
and Sarah is just been born?
So it's just been born, yeah.
Okay. And just as a little foreshadowing, when was the next time you moved out of state?
I think the next time we moved out of state was... We were relatively stable for a little while.
And I'm going to ask about what happened in a little while. I'm just trying to get a
Yeah.
sense of where the end of this particular chapter is, okay?
Okay.
So what state did you next move to?
I believe the next state we moved to, in fact, was this one.
Washington State.
Yes.
What town did you live in up here?
We actually moved to what's called Park South, if you're familiar with it. It's a particular area of Seattle.
Okay. So we'll get to that. So you've now got some period of time before you move to the Seattle area.
Yeah.
When you're back in the Santa Clara area, right?
Yes.
About how many years between when you got back from Arizona until you moved to Seattle?
Let's see, about 5.
About about 5 years.
Yeah.
And in the course of that time, and now is that an exact number, or is that your best guess?
That's the best guess.
Okay. Course of that time, what were you living in just one apartment complex or more than one? Tell us about what your life was like in California during that period.
We lived, if I remember correctly, in several different apartments in the Homestead complex.
In Homestead complex?
Yes. And then we moved to San Jose.
San Jose and Santa Clara are adjacent to one another, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we were there for a little while, and eventually moved from there too. So.
Okay, let's back up a second. Now, how about your grandpa? Did you have any ongoing relationship with your grandpa as you were growing up? How often did you see him, etc.?
While I was growing up, he would come over and visit maybe once a month, and we'd see him and talk to him, and be over at his house for spend the day over there, just doing whatever.
Did you spend time with Elva, his wife, also?
No, actually, once things got a little bit full, once I got a little bit older, she started going and not even wanting him to come and pick us up, and really very much trying to making it clear that she did not like us and wanted, that being me and my little brother Chris, she wanted us to be out of the house before she came home.
Okay.
Later on.
So you had your grandpa. You saw him about once a month, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Was your mom dating anybody after John Jones and after you got back to California and before you moved up to Seattle?
At this moment, I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to add one more thing, though, is that we didn't finish with Grandpa, actually.
Well, why don't you tell me, was there any other relevant details about Grandpa?
Yes, in fact, is that when I was going to middle school, I was literally
going to school?
Middle school. I was literally right across the street from Grandpa, right? So sometimes I would go and just all go to his house instead, and Ella quickly made it clear that she was not happy with that, and that she didn't want me to come over there at all or have anything to do with my grandfather. So that eventually it just came to a point where I literally got kicked out of my grandfather's house and just walk home.
Well, were you going over to Grandpa's when you should have been going to school?
No, I was going over there after I got off of school because me and my grandpa got along really well, and I didn't have a father. He thought of me as like a son, and that's kind of how our relationship was, except kind of distant as far as some racial relationships go.
Okay, hold on, except what?
As far as distant as father-son relationships go, because I'll see him maybe a day, a month or something. So I would drop by occasionally, we'd talk a little bit, and then he'd drop me off to while Elva's sitting around scowling. So eventually she just made it clear that she didn't want me to come home anymore at all.
Joe, you gotta slow down and you gotta keep your voice up, okay? Sorry, but we've gotta hear you.
I know, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, when you went over there to Grandpa's, what kind of things would you do with him?
We'd mostly, we'd have a little meal or a little snack and just talk a little bit, look at the keep him company while he did his little soldiers. Not much, really.
Okay. But you were having a relationship with him.
Yeah.
What other men, as you were growing up, did you have any other men like Grandpa that you had a relationship with like that?
Yeah, John, after he brought us down to Arizona, he's like, hey, just so you know, I'm your real dad and stuff, and so it's not going to be anybody else. And then he flips out on me and takes off.
Okay.
Pretty
So
good.
it sounds like John wasn't the same as your grandpa.
Well, no. I'm just saying that other guys who were in a paternal role. No, paternal.
I'm sorry. There's other guys who were paternal?
There weren't. I'm saying other guys who were in a paternal role.
There were other guys who were in a paternal role?
As far as other guys who were in a paternal role, there was that guy.
John Jones?
Yeah. So.
And about how long was he in your life?
About a year.
About a year.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the dynamic like between your mom and you and these guys as they would come in and out of the house?
When there weren't any guys around, it would be very much along the lines of she would be just completely helpless, completely irresponsible, completely incapable of getting much done at all, really.
Hold up. That sounds like a bit of a judgment. I mean, why do you say that? What facts do you have to support
No,
that?
I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just saying that she was irresponsible and she had a hard time paying the bill. She had a hard time keeping a job. She had a hard time, bothering to go off, like, wash the kids and whatever else. So that she had a hard time, bothering to be an adult. So
But, I mean, she had 4 kids. That's a lot of responsibility as a single parent.
I'm not going to say that it's not a lot of responsibility, and I'm not going to say that she didn't try very hard. Sometimes she didn't, but, I don't know. What I'm getting at is that she just wasn't an adult. I know it was difficult and that she did the best that she knew how. It's just she didn't know how to do very well at all. And so I did the best that I could as to raise my little brothers and sister.
So are you saying that as to Chris, that you helped raise Chris?
Well, I helped with Chris, but not as much as, say, with Ian and Sarah, because it's more of a age difference. It's kind of hard to raise somebody who's 3 years younger than you.
But if you're 10 years older than a sibling, I mean, you're
I
going to
was
help.
very much in the role of their father.
Okay. Well, what did you have to do around the house on a day-to-day basis? I mean, everybody's got chores. Everybody's got to clean up and help with this and that if you're growing up.
Well, yeah, of course, right? I mean, those cleaning up, doing the dishes and whatever. On a daily basis, we would have it would be, okay, one person would do the dishes and the other person would go and make, either me or Chris would do the dishes or make the dinner. Chris would be useful enough to go and, like, okay, if it's his day to go and make dinner, he would just, if it was his day to do the dishes, he would just fill the sink with water and just leave it. Leave it to soak. Right. There was a couple of times we had gotten into arguments over this, and
There was a couple of times.
we had gotten into arguments over this, and my mother he went to Mom, who had responded, "Don't you brutalize my children." Like, what am I, right?
Wait a second. Hold on. Let's take that back and let's go through that again slowly, because I didn't catch it, and I think I'm not the only one.
Okay.
There was a couple times with Chris that what happened?
That we would have arguments over that.
Over the dishes?
Him not doing the dishes, just leaving it for me for the next day, and then that being my problem. So we'd have problems over that, and sometimes it would get physical because, 2 young boys.
Sure, sometimes
Right.
it gets physical. Okay.
And so we would go to Mom with this, and so her response to that would be, "Don't you brutalize my children." I'm like,
Her response to that would be, "Don't you brutalize my children?"
yeah,
Who is she talking to?
me.
Well, but Chris was part of the puzzle here, right?
Well, yeah. So, and he would go, later on, he would go to Mary and actually eventually call the cops on me.
Actually, what?
Eventually he called the cops on me, and it's just like, so
Joe, hold on a second. I'll ask you about him calling the cops on you, but I want to just kind of finish up the topic that we're on here.
Okay.
I asked you about the dynamic and the relationships in your house, and you've got you talked about having to do chores and having to clean up, and none of that sounds really that out of the ordinary.
No.
Right?
No, it's just that.
Stop, please.
Okay.
Did you feel like, or do you believe in retrospect that the responsibilities you had growing up were somehow out of the ordinary or not in line with what most people experience?
Considering that, as far as chores go, let me put it to you like that. What I was trying to get at is that you would have the chores were technically meted out to everybody, right?
the chores were technically meted out to everybody?
Yeah, everybody goes off and does their fair share, right? Technically, that's how it should be. Realistically, it wasn't like that because nobody else went off like did anything. Mom wouldn't do anything, Chris wouldn't do anything. What are the little guys going to go off and do, right?
I didn't hear you.
What are the little Chris wouldn't do anything, and what are the little guys going to do, right?
Meaning you're
Ian
Ian and Sarah were just too young to do anything.
Right.
Okay.
So so it's like, okay, well, I would complain. I was like, look, why am I the one who has to go off and do everything? And her response would be, you're the oldest one, it's your problem. So.
Well, but she was trying to work at points during this time, right?
Not all that often.
What kind of jobs would she have? Give us some examples.
Just little fast food things.
But she's trying.
Sometimes.
What
she
would you do for income when she wasn't working at these places?
Even in those times, she would usually get welfare, and anytime I got money, it would usually end up going to her.
Anytime you got money, it would end up going to her?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of money?
Most people get allowances from their parents. I gave my parent got an allowance from me. Oh.
Well, how were you getting money when you were, say, 13 years old? Were you working? What were you doing?
Anytime I came across money, I would do odd jobs for the apartment management.
I would do odd jobs for
apartment management. You know.
They give you a few bucks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anytime I got money, I'd give it to them. Sometimes I would end up giving it to her because she'd always just, oh, we need this, or we need that.
So, I mean, maybe it often feels growing up and doing chores like, oh, I have to do more than everybody. But what level was this? I mean, was there some sort of extraordinary cleaning you had to do growing up?
You saw the house, it usually looked like that.
The
reason
hold up.
Okay.
You saw the house, it usually looked like that? Are you referring to those photos in the CPS?
Yes.
Give us a sense of, I mean, that was one instance, right? They took you away for a couple of days and then they brought you back.
The reason it looked that bad that day was because it was Chris's day to clean. I wasn't cleaning because I was in a lot of pain at that point.
Why were you in pain, Joe?
Well, the doctor decided it was psychosomatic, actually.
The doctor said it was psychosomatic?
This is, like I said, this is when we got taken away. This is when we went to the doctor. I was in a lot of pain throughout my joints, my spine, my arms, all that. We go to the doctor. After I finally managed to convince Mom after like a week that I was...
After I went to the doctor...
After like a week.
After like a week?
Yeah.
I thought you said I finally managed to convince Mom. Is that right? Okay.
That I was actually in this ongoing severe pain, and that could we please go and see a doctor, because if I'm in this severe pain, then something's probably wrong.
Joe, slow down. If I'm in this severe pain, then what?
Then something's probably wrong. Wrong.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you went to a doctor. You were having some psychosomatic pains. What did they do for that?
Mostly just laughed me off, actually.
Mostly just what?
Laughed me off.
Laughed you off?
Yeah.
Well, they must have given you some kind of treatment. I mean...
No.
No?
No, it said it was all in my head and told me to basically go screw off. Stop acting like a
They
ninny.
told me basically what?
That it was all in my head, that I should stop acting like a ninny.
Like a...
Ninny?
A ninny?
Ninny. Ninny.
Well, but Joe, I mean, your mom took you to the doctor, right?
Yeah, later she made a little story about it.
She made a little story about it?
Yeah, she was going to college at this point. Made a little story about it. Got a good laugh out of our entire college class.
How do you know that's true?
She told me.
So she wrote a story about this, and it was like a humorous story? Is that it?
I guess. She thought it was funny.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear that. Could you please?
You guess?
I guess.
And
She thought it was funny.
She thought it was funny?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was, the CPS report was from February of 92, right?
Yeah.
So you would have been, what, 13 at that time? Just turned 13 at the end of 91?
I guess.
Okay.
Just as been noted, I really like the CPS.
You what?
I really liked when they took us away.
Why is that?
Because it was the one time where everything was actually fair in my life.
Because it was the one time.
One time where everything was actually fair in my life.
What do you mean by that?
If you go and screw up, it's held against you though. If you do well, it's held towards you though. As opposed to the rest of my life where if you screw up, it doesn't matter. If you do well, it doesn't matter. You know? all that really mattered was who you were, not what you did or didn't do in my life outside of CPS, before CPS. So.
Well, did you have any other experiences growing up that were like, I mean, were you in Scouts or anything like that?
I was in Scouts, yeah.
You were in Scouts?
Yeah.
Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts?
Cub Scouts. We couldn't afford Boy Scouts.
You couldn't afford Boy Scouts?
Yeah.
Well,
We
let me
couldn't
ask you
afford
about
much.
Cub Scouts. Did you start, when you were 8 years old?
I don't know.
How long were you in it?
I was in it from Wolf to Weebelo, which I guess is 3
I
years.
didn't hear you.
Wolf to Weebelo?
Wolf 2.
It's WEBLO. Yeah, yeah.
One of the ranks in Cub Scouts?
One of the little thingies, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Eventually, just ended up dropping that because it got too expensive. And going to... It was always kind of awkward because, like, you'd have these kids who came from...
Keep your voice up.
Yeah, it was always kind of awkward because you'd have these kids who came from better households who actually had, like, dads and houses and weren't moving all the time and actually had, like, vehicles and stuff. And then you had me.
Didn't you guys have a car when you were growing up?
No. If we had a car, it didn't work. The first car that we had that worked reliably, I bought for Mom. And then she gave to a boyfriend.
So, I thought you couldn't drive,
I can't.
but you bought this car?
Look, we needed a car. I thought that the caveat to buying the car was, okay, I'll get this car.
Joe, speak up.
Sorry. The caveat to buying this car was that, okay, I'll get this car, but you'll drive me around, right? Did actually happen.
Hold up. Where were you living? What state were you when you bought that car? How old were you?
I was 19. I was living in Washington, and I was working at Burger King, actually.
I'm sorry, what you were...
Working at Burger King? Is that what you said?
Thank you.
Okay. Now, taking it back for a second, we were still talking about this period in California.
Okay.
You said your Aunt Mary lived in the area, and your cousin married Pat,
Yes.
who's Aunt Mary's daughter,
Yes.
and your cousin Regina.
Yes.
Was Aunt Mary a part of your life? Did you see her on a regular basis?
Yes, she was a strong maternal figure.
She was a strong maternal figure?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because she was.
Yeah, but this jury needs facts,
Yeah,
not the conclusion. That's fine if you think that.
Because she was a very strong woman, and very, without my mom, you got the idea that she was always kind of like looking for someone to prop her up and hold her up and be responsible for.
To what?
To prop her up, to hold her up, to be responsible for, somebody to answer to. My Aunt Mary was never like that. She was a very strong woman.
And Aunt Mary, let me ask you this. Who is Martin Evans?
I think, because I don't know his last name, is who I would call my Uncle Martin, who was my Aunt Mary's on-again, off-again boyfriend.
And was he in Aunt Mary's life when you were living near them at Homestead Garden Apartments or in that area?
He was in Aunt Mary's life when we were living with them, and later on when we were simply living near them.
And did you interact with Uncle
Yes.
Martin?
Yes, he was.
What was he like?
He was a good guy, I forgot about him. He was a number of the paternal roles
Keep your voice up.
a number of the paternal roles that would have otherwise got passed over, he kind of took on himself. I mean, for example, he taught me how to shower and pee standing up, things like that.
Taught you how to shower and what?
Pee standing up.
Pee standing up. Okay. So he had some paternal figure about him for you?
Yeah, so.
Okay. And how old were you when he came into your life?
Obviously, pretty young. I don't remember how young though.
You You what?
Obviously quite young. I don't remember how young though.
Was he with Aunt Mary before John Jones came on the scene and y'all moved to Arizona?
Yes.
Okay. And he was still with Aunt Mary when you came back?
I don't know. Like I said, he was on again, off again. Probably.
Okay.
If not immediately, then later on, then somewhere down the line.
Okay. Were there any, I asked you a few minutes ago if there was who the paternal figures. You said that Grandpa sometimes was a paternal figure for you?
Yeah.
You just didn't see him that much? Sounds like Martin.
In some ways. I mean, it was... He would do a couple of things as far as male role model. You know, it's like, okay, he also had to go off and do a couple of things. But it wasn't like... That was never the feeling that he was. He was more of a father figure than the people that Mom would bring home, but he wasn't what I would really consider a father figure in any way.
He wasn't really what you would consider a father figure?
Not really, no.
Why not?
Because he wasn't with Mom.
Because he wasn't with your mom?
Which sounds kind of weird when I say it in that
Excuse me,
context.
I don't think that's what he means.
I'm sorry.
That is what I said, actually. No, actually, that he did get it right.
I'm sorry, I just can't hear.
I know, I'm sorry. I get
I want to repeat that answer for the record, sir.
Of course, yes. What I had actually said is because he wasn't with my mom, and then I checked myself because that sounds really awkward because the only other male figure was my grandfather. But I don't know.
But your grandfather didn't have any improper relationship with your
God,
mother?
no. No, what I meant is that grandfather got around that because he was my grandfather. Okay? And Martin, for all of his good aspects, for all of his good and paternal aspects, he was with my mom. He was more of the father figure of my cousins, not me. Just like Andre, which is David, which is Kathy's husband, who was... These were the parents of my other friend, David.
Okay, hold on. Kathy means Kathy Cote, the apartment
Yes.
manager. Her
Yes.
husband was Andre.
Andre, yes.
And then you mentioned David. Is that David Cote?
Yes.
Was he a friend of yours?
Yes.
And was this in this same period of your life in California?
In that same period of life in California, in the same period of time when I was into the church and all that, yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we pick up with David Cote in the afternoon then?
Okay.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, leave your notepads and so forth on the chairs there. I'll excuse you to the jury room. Kenny will release you for lunch momentarily.